We on now?
I'm sorry? Yep.
Good morning, committee. This is the sixth meeting of the Citizens Government Review Committee. Thank you for being here. Megan, could you call the roll, please?
Okay, Chair Powell,
Here.
Connie Jacobson,
Here.
Brian Brocksterman.
Mike? Megan?
Oh, it's on. Okay, sorry. Champagne Lloyd, Tamara Martin. Here. And Zachary Surratt.
Here.
Okay, we have 4 present.
Okay, thank you. And Megan, do we have any individuals that have signed up or indicated they want to address the committee today?
No, we do not have anybody signed up to speak, but we did receive public comment from Tom Banaka as well as Danielle Twemlow that I have sent out to you guys.
Okay. Well, let's go right into the, hear from our guest speakers then. Our first speaker is Councilman Marcus Miller.
And if you'd like to sit, if it's
I certainly would.
Take your pick, Councilman.
Hello, committee. How y'all doing?
Hello.
Good. Thanks for being here.
Yes, thank you for coming.
Appreciate you having me. Absolutely.
Councilman, I don't know if you have any prepared remarks or if you want to respond to questions or how do you want to,
No prepared remarks. Here for whatever is needed from the council
okay.
or the committee. I apologize.
Well, give us 30 seconds on you. Or 30 minutes, whatever you want.
No, I don't need 30 minutes. Marcus Miller. Matter of fact, let me get this gum out of my mouth. I'm not. I don't want Dan getting mad at me.
You're using up your 30 seconds, Councilman.
All I need is 20 of it. Hello, my name is Marcus Miller. I'm born and raised in Pekin. Proud to serve the District 6 on City Council. I've lived in District 6 for about 12 years now. I've lived in a couple different spots in town. So I have a good experience on what different parts of the city offer, the communities in those areas, and I'm happy to represent all of them.
We have, I'm sure you're familiar with the mission of this committee. And so we've been hearing pretty much uniformly kind of big picture, the macro picture here about the form of city government in Topeka. We've yet to hear any, I don't want to say any coherent, but any strong comments regarding changes to the basic form of government, moving away from the city manager, mayor council form of government. And at the time that you've been on the council, your observations of the workings of City Hall and the operation of the city council, do you have any comments regarding the, not getting at personalities in terms of city manager or your compatriots on the council, but just how it functions, how it performs for the citizens of Topeka?
I've been very happy with how it functions. There's a checks and balances to all of it. Everybody has a voice in this, and we use everybody's voice efficiently. Dr. Perez does a really good job of making sure he builds coalition from my viewpoint. And I think our city manager and city council set up right now, they're not having a strong mayor. It's working out exactly fine. I don't know anything other than that, so it's hard for me to say anything otherwise, but I'm extremely happy with how we have functioned so far.
So communications between yourself and the city manager are acceptable or good or?
Oh, very
great?
good. Very good, Chair. Dr.
You find
Perez,
that office very responsive?
He reaches out consistently. We meet consistently. He's there before I am for most meetings that we have. He sometimes has to remind me, hey, we're meeting again today. And it's because he's very consistent when it comes to that stuff. So I'm extremely happy with the communication.
Well, let me ask you a couple questions about your constituents.
Sure.
Okay. Your district folks. We have not been overwhelmed by public comment. And I guess it's kind of a question, open question as to whether or not the lack of participation by the public indicates that there's a great degree of satisfaction across the city with the way in which the city operates, or if it's the converse, that it's disaffected. People are either not interested in city government or they don't see a point in making appearances before boards like this. So what do you hear, if anything?
I mean, I see the comment section that people care. I mean, there's things. It's easier for them to speak out in those manner because they don't have to do anything. They can be going through the middle of their day, see something that they think the city is doing, or get a text or a message from somebody what that person thinks the city is doing, and so then they just put that on Facebook, or they put that on our message boards, or whatever the case may be. So coming here in the middle of the day, even though I know you guys have some evening meetings as well, may not be the easiest thing for people, especially in a time when a lot of folks need to focus on their work and make sure that they're not stepping away for personal reasons of wanting to have conversations with the city and express their grievances with the city. I don't think a lack of participation in this would indicate that people aren't caring. I would think that people will start to care once whatever we are doing in this committee right here gets more formidable, more structured, and allows people to participate on specific things. It kind of feels right now, because I've been paying attention to the meetings since you guys started. It seems very broad, and we're just trying to get informational. But as soon as it gets more directional, I think you'll get more participation from the public. Okay.
And part of our, to me, part of the situation that we're facing is getting the word out to the community. We're halfway through the process at this point, and I don't know how much public information is out there, public awareness there is, and that carried with that, I guess, is the assumption if there's more public awareness, there'd be more people in the room. But I don't know if that's necessarily true. But and your point about time of day is an important one. But we have half of our meetings are in the evening to try to, encourage folks that are working 9 to 5 to come on down here to meet. But
yeah, I think that's good, Jim. Honestly, if you were to have your committee come down to more NIA meetings and come directly to the constituents instead of having them come to you first, I think you get even more engagement quicker than you would by just organically allowing them to filter in whenever they want to. Because I think if people don't know, they're not going to go. And so you got to make sure that they know. And we can put out as many, the committee, city, anybody can put out as many messages on Facebook. They can put out as many e-notifications as they want to. People are not going to always get news and get information the same way. So you have to meet them where they're at. So I think it's extremely important that if you want more engagement in this, you're going to have to go get it and not just wait for it to come to you.
okay, we're adjourned.
I'd love to hear from everybody else in the committee. All due respect to your chair, but I'd love to hear it from
Yeah, I'm not
everybody
done
else.
with you, but yeah.
Yeah. That's fine.
Councilman Miller, this is your first term
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
council. So how's it going so far?
I love it. I feel blessed. I feel honored. The more I do it, the more I realize why he put me here to do this. And calling balls and strikes fairly has always been something I'm proud of ever since my days at the country club years ago, when I had managers and some country club members being kind of rude to staff members, and the staff members were afraid to speak up for themselves. That's why I was the one who would take the brunt of the punishment, because I was willing to say something. And that's no different than this. So I don't mind speaking up to truth and having those conversations, and I realize why I'm here.
Did your perception of your council job, position, duties match the reality, or did you have a learning curve?
A little bit. I mean, I didn't come brand new in the sense of
'Cause you
I
lived
didn't
here.
study. Yeah, I've lived here my entire life. I've been a community advocate for many different things. And half the council members that were on, I either knew personally or I had some conversations where I can get a good understanding of who they were as a person. But one thing that I have been very I guess I guess you could say a light bulb moment was figuring out how words match actions, and also realizing how many of their constituents would reach out to a different council member that they feel comfortable with. I didn't know how much of that happened. And I know that it happens from constituents in my district who know someone else more. I've had emails where I was CC'd about something in my district to Councilwoman Hiller, which is fine because that person felt comfortable enough to bring that to her, didn't know me well enough, and that's okay. I should be one that's there for everybody in the city, not just my district. Yes, I represent my district, and all of us represent our districts, but I think it's important that we realize and understand that we represent the city of Topeka. And so whenever challenges arise, I think it's important that we all act. I mean, we don't have to act immediately at all times. I intentionally don't act immediately on some things because sometimes things are very emotionally charged, and responding to that moment is not productive for the issue that they're trying to get to and the result that they're trying to get. So, there's some things of strategy in the sense of how I handle my task, but it's just with the intent of making sure that everybody is heard and problems are solved in the best way possible.
So make sure, I think I got it, but I want to make sure I do. So if I live in district number 5. Okay. So if I wanted to, there is a measurable number of citizens, like I live in District 5, but I'll email the councilman in District 1, like, hey, or District 8, hey, can you look at this? Can you fix this? Like, I have an issue with this kind of thing. Everyone should feel free to reach out to whatever council member.
Correct. Yeah, and it's up to our council members individually to either help out in that situation they want to, or include or pass it off to the person who's. I think we all should be representing everybody, but yeah, you're more than welcome to do that.
Okay.
A follow-up, excuse me, Connie.
No, go right ahead.
A follow-up on this topic here. We have had conversations about the merits of district representation versus at-large. Mm-hmm. And in the past, our predecessor committee 10 years ago spent a lot of time talking about that issue and also about hybrid approach of partial, a couple at-large seats versus district. Your comments indicate a level of satisfaction with the current arrangement with district representation.
Absolutely.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. I'm repeating what you said.
Yeah, no.
That you consider Topeka to be your constituency and the district your constituency.
1,000%. 1,000%. I don't like the at-large idea because it kind of gets things convoluted a little bit. But yeah, no, I completely understand my responsibilities for District 6. But it's my job to be responsive to all of our city.
Do you see that in your fellow council members, that attitude, that perspective?
I think so. And to follow back on what Connie asked a second ago, there is one of the things that I have come to realize is that more council members care more about the city at large than they do just their constituents. They may not always support everything outside their district, but they are concerned about those things. So that has been something that I really have enjoyed to see, that we may not always agree on everything as city council members, but the care is there. The true care is there.
If I might jump in, Jim's right. We've talked a lot about at-large seats. We've also talked about size of the council, not just to compare ourselves with other communities our size in the Midwest, but also just how can we make sure that as a city we're representing all of our citizens equally, and how do we make sure that process is accountable. So we've talked about, we've got 9 city council people and it's split up in halves, 10 with the mayor. We've discussed the merit of possibly changing some of those terms to where you divide it in 3 and there's an election every year, so it's a little bit of consistency with city elections. We know that municipal elections are just really low turnout, especially because, like this year, it's just municipal elections. It's city, county. Do you feel like that would change anything? We've heard some feedback from other members of the council about you want to create some of that consistency with the 4-year terms. So that way everybody gets at least one good full year together before the next half of the council's got to go back up for election, whether they choose to run again or not. You feel pretty good about the 4-year term? Do you feel like it's too long for something to be accountable? If you need more change and you have to wait 2, 3, 4 years for change, or do you feel like it's pretty good?
I believe it's pretty good because I think if you go any shorter, you're gonna get a lot of partisan problems because they will perpetually be in fundraising and election time season. Mm-hmm. Because if you care about your constituents, you would want to feel comfortable with the position that they've put you in and not always trying to acquiesce to everything that everyone is asking for. That there comes a point where we need to be doing the right thing. Mm-hmm. And although your issue may be your particular issue, if I try to, or I have the city try to fix this specific thing, it may make it tough for others. Is that the best thing to do? Or can we just try to help you in your specific situation? Mm-hmm. If I'm consistently looking to get votes, which you're going to get people on council doing that. I don't care about getting votes. I'm going to do the right thing. Whether you like it or love it, I'm going to do the right thing. What I believe is the right thing. Okay? And it's going to be off of factual information and factual things that we logistically can do as a city. But if you get someone who's always just placating because they know every 2 years I gotta make sure I'm getting voted in, then you're not going to get the truth from people. You're not going to get honesty from people. You're going to get people who are just trying to appease you. Mm-hmm. And that's not what you want from a city council person. I understand why it's necessary, or why I can understand the argument of holding someone more accountable. Hey, you only have 2 years, so you got to do what we say. But there's a flip side to that, and that we got to be worried about. I'm a big believer in term limits, which is why past 2031 I won't run. 27 I will, but I won't run in 2031 because I believe, even though I may still have the energy that I have right now in this moment in 2031, I believe it's important for others to come be able to provide their voice. Because just like you talked about, there's other people in District 6 who do not look like me, who do not think like me, who do not always do the same exact things that I do. It's important for their voices as well to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a great answer. I think that kind of reflects some of the research that I've been doing as I talk about elections, is that a lot of cities are going to what we already have. They're switching to the 4-year split in 2 terms that we have. Yeah. And really, I think that what we're trying to do is trying to figure out what recommendations are we going to bring forward, if any. I don't want to sit there and be like, well, we haven't really identified any problems because the city's not perfect. But we also haven't anyone come in here saying we really need to change this. It seems like people are pretty happy with the form we have now. We've heard a little bit about term limits and how hard it is to, what is a responsible amount, but at some point it's also everybody's accountable at least every 4 years. Mm-hmm. So again, there's advantages and disadvantages to any kind of change that we could ever present, but I really appreciate your input and I appreciate your service. I don't want to take up too much of your time if anybody else has questions.
Just a quick follow-up before anybody else asks a question. I also want to think about the staff, because when we make decisions, we also have to think about the impact on the staff. If the direction is changed every 2 years, how is there supposed to be any consistency on 5-10-year plans? When we have projects that we're making decisions on right now that won't start until 2027, that go all the way through 2030, how are we supposed to stay consistent on those projects for our neighborhoods if we're constantly changing what the direction is from council?
Yeah. I guess my last thing, and I really apologize.
No, go ahead.
Do we feel like 9 is enough or not even enough? Do we feel like 9 is too many council members? I know that, again, in my research, a lot of places have 5 or 7. Some larger places have 9, some places that are much larger than Topeka. Do you feel like 9 council members and a mayor elected at large works for Topeka pretty well? Do you ever feel like this is too many hands in the basket here?
For Topeka, yes, because we are the capital city. We are a very diverse community. I think it's important to have that many. I mean, if we were in, and I don't want to say a city's name, a smaller city, because I don't want them to feel like we're calling them out, but them having 9 may be a little over the top. You know, you got 90 people in the town. You don't need 9 council members. But for a city our size, that has the traffic come through with that it does, and is responsible for everything around literally the capital, I think it's important that we have a wide range of districts, because every single pocket of our town may be a little different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right. Now I'm done.
Councilman, you mentioned a moment ago, one moment ago, about the turnover and the fact that reports or studies, you know, can lie dormant or be put on a shelf because of changeover in staff or changeover maybe in elected officials as well. And that is something we have heard about from a number of conferees, and I think we'll continue to hear about it. I can cite maybe as many examples as you can about reports that have laid on the shelf with specific recommendations, implementation timelines and all that, and there's no follow-through or partial follow-through. That's kind of a leading question for you, but I mean, have you observed that? Is that, I think you made that comment just a few moments ago.
I don't know if I've observed projects get started and then falter because of a lack of direction, but that's only my 1 year and 3 months into it. That's why I've been very impressed with our communication. Obviously, we didn't get the city manager until the middle of the year, so there was a whole lot that was in flux at the time, and that may have something to do with some of this.
Your service on the council has been in a less tumultuous time than
from
some
my
of your
standpoint.
others. Yeah.
From my standpoint, you know, perception-wise may be different, and I respect that, and I like to hear those perceptions. I don't believe all of them. I take every single thing with a grain of salt anyway, as everyone should. I mean, everyone in this room should be taking everything I say with a grain of salt, as I would with you, you know? If we're being honest, that's how we should operate. But when it comes to the follow-through, it may be a whole lot of other reasons of why we're not able to follow through on those things. When it comes to logistics, funding, and yada, 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 that is, you know, those are more reasons than it would be the direction.
I think what some of my perception is that the problem is, you know, if a project is funded, and odds are that it's going to be completed, you know, entirely or partially at least, but it's those recommendations that are made, and they don't, maybe they involve funding, maybe not, but they don't get a formal approval. They just kind of go to the council and die.
I mean, there's going to be some of those things. You know, we can't approve every single thing, and we can't go down every rabbit hole. So being selective about which ones we do, in the sense of cost saving, in the sense of staff time, and our ability, and also one of the things you say for certain projects, you know, and the staff does the majority of the work on this. I mean, literally 99% of the work, honestly. All we do is just final approval on things. And so them thinking about how traffic will be disturbed and how neighborhoods will be affected, those are the things that keep things held up more than anything than what we do, if that makes sense.
To be,
As a matter of fact, I'm gonna give you a real live example. Just got an email from a lady yesterday who sees something happening in my district that's over there by Hummer Park. Okay? She is worried about the logistics of while you're working on the construction, when they're middle of spring season, when they're using those fields for baseball and all those other schools going there, people navigating that area. That's a legit concern. Legit concern. Something I passed off to the staff. Hey, did we make sure we thought about those things? And if the staff says, yes, we thought about this and here's how we're reacting to it, then boom. Now a constituent thinks that, oh, we haven't thought about these things. Well, we have, and here's what we've done to mitigate that. They just didn't know about it. And so when you have different situations come up, if the citizens aren't fully aware of all the other things that go into the decision, it's easy to have certain perceptions about projects and the length of them. But the more you know, the more you grow.
When you get a complaint or a comment from a citizen, and you pass it on to either city manager or department head, whatever the protocol is, do you tend to follow up with that citizen later on to see if they got a positive response? Or
I do, and I wouldn't be able to do it if I didn't have the great technology of these phones and the emails of being able to snooze something or set a reminder or a follow-up, because there's a whole lot moving in every single day. And if your grass not getting put back together after we've fixed whatever on your property immediately, that's a concern for you. I will bring that concern, but I may not remember 2 weeks from now if that 6 square foot of your grass got replaced. So I appreciate the staff, because the staff has done a really good job of, I'll send some to them and then they'll send me a response of, hey, this has been completed. So I can either reach back out to the person or not. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, because what's done is done, and I'm not looking for congratulations or a thank you. I'm just doing the job that people ask me to do.
a whole other topic that I want to make sure I ask you about, and it's something that's come up several times, other conferees, and I'm sure it's something that the committee is going to discuss and possibly make recommendations on. That is city-county cooperation, not consolidation, but just interlocal agreements, interlocal cooperation. Do you have thoughts on that topic? Do you hear anything from your constituents about?
To answer the question, no, I do not hear from my constituents on that. Is there another question?
What are your thoughts?
Okay.
So we've got,
I was trying to avoid that. I heard what he said. Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, so I'm a big believer in collaboration, and I think at the end of the day, the city and county want to work together to make sure our project. We already work together on a lot of things. It's a lot of the fringe stuff that we may not always agree on, or the timeline, or who's paying for what. When we lead with who's paying for it, that throws everything, because yes, we have to think of the cost, but our job as a city and their job as the county is to take care of the people who are in our boundaries. So if we worried about cost first and not issue first, then I think there's sometimes a disconnect. And that's okay, because there's a lot of different minds, a lot of very bright minds, and some not. Me being one of them, you know what I mean? I'm just doing what I can. But the need to collaborate is very clear. But I don't think we're adversaries at all, if that helps.
No. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I did have one more because I wrote it down.
Hold on real quick. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Tamara, did you have anything? Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm good. I'm
Okay.
listening.
All right.
I could also just reach out because I know where you're at.
Yes, you do.
So the last time we redistricted was, 3 years ago or so, before you were on city council. And then the next time we'll do it will be during a potential second term for you. So while you haven't been a part of that process while on the council yet, do you feel like, based on your knowledge of our redistricting process, that it's fair? I know that there is a city council created, I don't know if you want to call it independent because it's still districts, but do you feel like that redistricting process is fair for the city districts? Do you feel like there's any room for improvement there that you know of?
Yes, I'm not going to speak on something I don't have a good understanding of, just me being honest. When we do come up with that, I would like to know a lot of information before we decide of what our redistricting is. My personal thought when it comes to redistricting anywhere, if the system makes sense, then fine. But if we're moving lines, I would like to know who is moving those lines. Why are we moving those lines? And how far ahead of you moving those lines do we let the public know that we're moving those lines? I think if all those things can be answered with validity, then I'm okay with the process because we have something we can stand on. But if you're talking about moving processes that seem a little more like redlining, which that's not comparative, but if there's reasons behind why we're moving lines, then I'm not okay with that. But if we can justify it, then it makes sense to me.
Perfect.
I have a last question. My last question, anyway.
Okay.
I think it's my last question, Councilman.
I ain't going nowhere, man. You can bring me back. That's fine.
You're on the council at a pretty challenging time, and looking ahead in the short term, Dr. Perez was with us, and he's mentioned the projected budget deficit and talked publicly about that, so no issue of transparency there. And that, I think those projections were put together prior to any ability to estimate the fallout from federal funding cuts, and more on the way, and unlikely that the state will step in to fill any gaps. So the question is, are you seeing any fundamental change in the role that city government has to try to make up at a time when there's already a projected budget deficit, to try to fill in the gap for whether it's public health, mental health, housing, anything that the city receives federal aid on, law enforcement? How does that play out in your mind?
I don't know how that plays out. I do know that we are working through our budget right now, and I think it's extremely important for us to focus on the things that we can control.
I've been harping on, and that's the right word, harping on housing every chance I get with this committee and with conferees. And it ties back to one of the first things we talked about, and that is what the reports, studies that are done that fall short of implementation. And the 2020 housing study, which I think you're familiar with.
A little bit, yeah.
The housing strategy study is something that is really very significant to me, and I think very significant to the community. And the failure to follow the implementation or meet the implementation goals for a whole set of reasons. Yeah. And that's the dilemma. It's not, the city can't control the marketplace. Can influence it a little bit, but can't control it. But anyway, that's, yeah. I don't know if there's a question there.
Yeah, it's all right.
A comment.
I'm just hearing, yep.
Okay.
I hear you.
You're favorable to housing.
1,000%. 1,000%. I'm just so glad that we were able to approve the start of this project right here down the street. And it's not funny because I saw a comment literally as I was driving here, before I was driving here, that someone was literally trying to do the math of 59 million to it's 240,000 per unit. That means it's going to be 2,000 a month. You can't just simply divide these numbers that you see, because there's so many complex credits and things that adjust to make it affordable housing that people don't understand. And so as that project's developed, I'm hoping that the city is able to communicate how those things break down. And maybe not, it may not be the city's responsibility to communicate that. It may be the developers need to communicate how it breaks down and how the things that they are doing are a win-win for everyone. But it's not going to make $2,000 affordable homes or $2,000 apartment units that we're claiming are affordable housing. No, that number is going to be way below that. for what the person who lives there pays. So our message is important on that, but housing is 100% something that I'm about. The more housing we get, the better for our community. And there may be some cost that we all bear in doing so, but that's something that we should want to. My entire life, I've always moved with the thought, I'm happy to pay more for others to have some. I've been blessed, and I have a work ethic that is going to allow me and my family to be able to thrive regardless. Everyone is not able to do that right away. There was a date that I was not able to do that. There was a date I was homeless. There was a date I was living with roaches. I know how it go. So if I now am in a place, which I'm pretty sure all of us in this room are in a place, that we can give a little something so that others have something. That's what the housing is about. It's our community.
Questions?
Thank you for being here. We really appreciate your time.
Now,
Yes. Your enthusiasm for your duties is truly, truly appreciated and
Thank you.
noticed.
thank you.
You're on
I
fire.
don't know if I'm doing the right thing and that I'm just doing what
You know what?
feels
Doing
right.
something, and that's a lot.
I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Absolutely. And I say it all the time, but Zach, I stay impressed with you. You ran for city council, you lost, and you still stayed involved. That's what it's
I
about.
told you you couldn't get rid of me, so.
That's right.
Thank you, Marcus.
There's always another opportunity, Zach, right? As the calendar moves on.
Well, I can't, he made eye contact with me and said he's running again, which means I can't, so.
Oh, you're in the same district?
Yeah, that's my councilman.
Enough said. Okay.
All right.
Our other conferee is with the League of Women Voters, Vicki Arnett.
So I'm going to ask our new president of the league to talk a little bit about the league before
Sure thing. Yeah, come and, you're more than welcome to come and join us at this table as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And then if you could just double check that the green light is on whenever
The green
you're
light is
about to
on.
speak.
That's a little scary that the green light is on.
I know.
If the great, if the
It
red light
is,
comes
yeah.
on, you're in trouble.
Okay, thank you. I'm Dr. Glenda Overstreet Vaughn, and as Vicki indicated, I am the incoming president of the league for the Topeka and Shawnee County area, and very happy to do so. I have been an extremely active participant in the community, and particularly an advocate for voting. And this is just kind of like right in my realm of community responsibility. We have a lot of community advocates and activists as needed, and we are a nonpartisan organization. I did not realize how much work until I began getting involved in the league, just how extensive those tentacles was across the community. But I mean, actively involved in so many different areas in a way to try to inform voters to be as informed as possible on voting issues and issues that impact their livelihood. You know, everything from healthcare to sustainability to looking at ways to preserve energy, and then also food deserts and those types of things, how to look at preserving efforts. So it is extremely important. And of course, reviewing governmental activities and being a part of that and encouraging people to be informed of what government provides for them. And then also be engaged in that civil engagement in coming in and actively providing their voice to government. So that's why I wanted to be able to come and kind of introduce myself. But also, Vicki is our chair, and she chairs the climate study group, and they do an awesome job. And I'm going to turn it over to Vicki to be able to share some more information about what they're currently doing. Vicki?
So, thank you. Am I projecting?
You are on. You might just
Okay.
have to get a little closer to the mic.
Okay. Well, maybe it'll come closer to me. So, so I am the current study chair for the local league as well as the state League of Women Voters, because one of the things that the league does is, we don't take positions about candidates or parties, partisan politics, but we do take positions, particularly around good governance and transparency and involvement. And so in 2022 and 2023, the local league reviewed their current position on local government. And that was a pretty long-held position, and we made several changes to the position at that time. We also added a position on local redistricting. And in 2023, we began a 2-year study, which was a new study for our league on climate change and energy use, which just recently concluded, so we're just getting started, and that's why you have the position statement with draft still on it. But I wanted to talk mostly about the league position on city and county government. Because the league does support the mayor, council, city manager form of government. The league supports the separation of the duties of the city manager as being administrative and supervisory, and the duties of the council as being policymaking. The league continues and has long supported the idea of effective consolidation or cooperation, collaboration between the city and the county, that those relationships deepen good governance practices. The league has supported in the past the purpose and functions of the Intergovernmental Coordinating Council, to provide a pathway for communication between the city and county government for the purpose of solving problems through the development of interlocal agreements. Although the league position supports the ICC, we recommend review by the city manager of the function and effectiveness of all appointed citizen city boards, committees, and commissions. In regards to collaboration and cooperation, the league supports cooperation in the areas of public safety, infrastructure, emergency management, and unification of the Metropolitan Transit Authority between city and county. Supports the development of a city-county sustainability plan, as well as public health, emergency management, solid waste, transportation, noxious weed, environmental plans. The league supports the adoption of independent redistricting commission, and also supports review of the city charter ordinances every 10 years. Thank you. Allergy season. The league supports the development of a city-county energy use plan in our recent climate change position. We support the city in budgeting for a sustainability program manager as requested by the Topeka Sustainability Advisory Board. The league encourages the city to review the city council redistricting ordinances and focus on drawing districts which keep communities of interest and commonality together and minimize the impact of incumbent protection. The League also supports reviewing the function, effectiveness, and purpose of the Joint Economic Development Organization. So, with that, I engage with questions.
That's a lot. Vicki, let me start off with a couple of questions on and I appreciate very much you bringing this material in, and it's dense.
It is dense.
Okay. The ICC, and I've got to admit I'm not all that conversant in it. I knew it existed, but what's your assessment of its success? What has it accomplished?
I don't know if I have an assessment of its success. You know, it was originally, they said on their website that the purpose of the Intergovernmental Coordinating Council, it began at the implementation of the half-cent sales tax, and it was to provide a forum for all taxing entities throughout the county to come together. Now, the League recognizes that they are not a policy-making board. It's simply a forum for discussion.
Well, we have, and you've heard earlier today with the Councilman Miller that asked questions about city-county cooperation. And just to lay out the guardrails here, I guess, you know, and you haven't mentioned consolidation. That's a non-issue. It's a non-starter, right? But there is interest, in some quarters at least, of increasing the degree of city-county cooperation. With the is there, not necessarily ICC, but is there some body that needs to be created or an existing body that needs to be strengthened that could facilitate, you know, on an ongoing basis, efforts to consolidate, or I'm sorry, to collaborate, and you point out like law enforcement, emergency services, fire, you know, which those are all tough nuts to crack.
Right, absolutely.
That's a good point. I do serve as a member on ICC. And
Forgive me for if
oh, that's okay, because for a while there, it depends on who's actually facilitating that, because you can kind of get lost in the shuffle, if you will, when the I should say when the education industry was involved in setting the agenda. It was pretty succinct. And then I believe that when the county commissioner started, it was not as thoroughly planned. And so, you know, some individuals that were on it kind of were dropped, and it wasn't until later that they reinstated it. I think now they're beginning to have that meeting. I think I've got a meeting next week that is going to be held at Billiard Airport, but it's primarily, from what I have been able to assess, is informational. So there is an opportunity. I do know that the last meeting that I attended, the mayor was there, the city manager was there, but there is an opportunity to make it a little bit more, I should say, provide more substance, where there's more of an opportunity to address issues that can be more collaborative in nature, you know, so that there's a need to be able to consolidate resources, look at opportunities for strengthening the unified effort. Information is always good, but having an action plan to go along with the information is even better. That's kind of, you know, the thought process that I would have and would bring forth to that.
Do you know if the ICC is created by interlocal agreement or if the city passed an ordinance?
I'm not sure if that is through an interlocal agreement or not. I don't know that they've ever really mentioned that, but I'll find out next week when I get ready to go to the meeting.
Well, is there a place for a body, whether it's the ICC or somebody else, that would have as its mission, not just communication, but policy making? Maybe not the last word, but have more influence over issues of joint city-county cooperation. It seems like when the elected bodies get directly involved in it, then there are
It has a
turf
tendency to-
issues
yeah,
arise immediately.
Yeah, yeah, I can see your point. I don't know, I think that's some food for thought. Something to-
Bring it up at the next
Yeah,
meeting.
that's some food for thought, for sure. Absolutely.
Well, I do want to kind of add to the fact that when the league study was going on, and I haven't looked recently, it was very difficult to find out what the current interlocal agreements are. They aren't posted on the county website, and they were not at that time posted on the city website either.
Well, can I facilitate that for you? By statute, all city-county interlocal agreements are to be filed with the Kansas Secretary of State's office.
So you have to go there.
Okay.
So, I mean, you can go down to the Secretary of State's office and find every interlocal agreement that's been entered into.
But there's nothing that prohibits the city or the county from there's nothing that prohibits the city or county from putting them on their website?
Oh, no. In fact, they're also to be recorded with the Register of Deeds office, local ones. I mean, you can go to the state to find all of them across the state. You go to the Register of Deeds office to see the ones that the city of Topeka's entered into.
One of the things that came up at the study committee of the league was because we looked at Salina's website, and it's just page after page after page of interlocal agreements. So,
I think the municipal code has an appendix with all the charter ordinances, but not of interlocal agreements. Is that? There's no appendix for.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
right, yeah.
Appendix.
Okay. Yeah, it's the Register of Deeds office.
thank you.
Well, I can get us started talking about elections because it's my favorite. And I'm going to kind of, number one, I want to appreciate the work that you all did in putting this together for us because I've been able to kind of pick up some general answers just from reading what you've provided. You talk about the redistricting process as an independent body. And I guess I was under the impression that our current redistricting process was an independent body where there were at least 9 members, all representing each predetermined or former city council district, and then they provide that recommendation to the city council. Have you all identified specific ways that you would like to see change in the redistricting process in the city of Topeka?
So a couple of areas. One is that the members of the commission are appointed by their current city council member. And, I mean, you had to apply and be approved and have a conversation with the current city council member, which probably influences some independence. The other area is that our city ordinance on redistricting specifically protects incumbents by address. So the district lines have to be drawn based on population, increase or decrease, with consideration for the current incumbent.
Okay. Do you have a recommendation on, if not appointed by their city council person, how should those, I don't know if we want to call them commission members, how should they be selected and appointed?
I think by city staff, the city manager, even some city redistricting commissions have been appointed by municipal or local judges.
Okay. That's great information. I really appreciate it. And then beyond just redistricting, kind of the same questions that I asked Councilman Miller is, do you feel like 9 council persons is adequate for the city of Topeka and their term length, 4-year terms, staggered elections? We think that, I think that falls in line pretty much with what most cities our size do. Seems to be pretty common practice, but I guess I just wanted to confirm or see if you guys had any differing opinions.
Well, according to the redistricting statute, the city council districts are based on population versus geography. And one of the things that we learned during the redistricting process was the fact that some areas of the city are growing faster than others, and other areas of the city are not growing. And geographically, these districts are pretty large, whereas the population is in West Topeka.
Okay.
I would also add that, just in kind of hearing sometimes from the community that the term limits can go on. I mean, it seems like individuals, as far as city council members, have been in that office for ages, and after a while they're seen as being complacent, and they don't necessarily continue to serve the needs of their constituents. And I think that that's an issue. And so, many of them have expressed, term limits. And so that would be something that, I would see as being a very prudent thing to consider. So, because, to continue to have someone that is proving of a longevity to be ineffective is not very effective for the community.
The flip side of that we've heard from a number of folks is that the turnover of both elected officials and key members of the administrative staff is disruptive of any time long-term planning and implementation of studies that have been done. I'll go back again to housing, okay? That has been disruptive of that. So it depends on your perspective, and there has been
And I
overall,
can
there's been-
understand that from an administrative standpoint, and being an adjunct that teaches that strategic planning, how important it is to have that long-term planning. Long-term planning to me can be anywhere from 5 to 10 years. That to me then says, how many terms do we look at? Anything beyond that would be considered as an individual getting into a position where they can become complacent, where they feel like they've gotten an investment into that particular position, and they no longer have a real active ear to their constituents.
I have a couple of questions, clarification. So is the league in support of term limits for the city council or not?
Well, at this particular time, that feedback is very informal. It's not a particular stance that we've taken
The
from
league
a
does not
formal
have a
standpoint.
stance at all on term
At
limits?
this particular time,
Okay.
we don't. But that is going to be something certainly we're going to take back and ask, what our membership feels about that.
Okay.
This is basically what we're hearing from the community.
All right, awesome. Also, on the council districting concern, populated versus non-populated, is the league just concerned about it? Or, we can't make people move to certain areas of the city, so you'll have a disparity in size of districts when you divide it up by population. Or are you just stating a fact, or wishful thinking, or?
Redistricting is a very complicated issue. But, because everything kind of mushes together, What I said about geography, that has to do with the contiguous boundary part of the ordinance. And that's just the way redistricting works. And there's some, I guess, mindset around the notion that if districts look funny, then they must be gerrymandered. Well, sometimes that's about keeping communities of interest together. And so the cleanest, squarest boundaries are not necessarily the best. But I also recognize that dramatic changes in boundaries for a local election will create a lot of confusion without a lot of communication on the part of the city staff as well as elected officials.
Our election commissioner.
Yeah.
So, at this time, does the league believe that the city council districts, they're fairly compact. They may have different shapes, but we don't have, I'm trying to remember the map last I saw it in my head. Is the league concerned about that or not at this time?
Well, we have to look forward to the next
Oh, yes.
redistricting.
Okay.
It
So it's
just is what it is. So,
Okay, so it's something that to be aware of and not,
yeah.
Red line.
I'm sorry, not.
and not red line or crack, divide up districts.
I think the largest concern is the drawing of boundaries around the current incumbent's address.
Okay.
Is very central to the redrawing of the districts. And the argument in opposition to that is that potentially you have two city council members that are running against each other. And as a member of the voting public, I would say, okay, that's interesting.
Well, it happens. Happens at the state level all the time, every 10 years or so. So,
Yep,
and
that's-
choices are not a bad thing when it comes to elections.
Actually, they're a good thing.
Just saying.
Yeah,
Choices are good.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
In 2014, the city had the same committee convened, and the league testified. It was a conferee, and I believe, raised the issue of a redistricting commission or committee. I don't recall for certain whether that made its way into a recommendation to the city council, but if it did, it obviously died there. So the position has been consistent for some time that the league has had. I wanted to ask you about just real quickly on the part of your statement here, position statement about the county role. I don't want to get into the weeds here on all this, but just a basic question. Has this been approached, has the Board of County Commissioners been approached with this listing in any way?
No, the board at the time in 2022 or 2023, I think, decided not to approach the county, at that particular time.
Okay. So as far as you know, the county has never been formally submitted to the county.
As far as I know, it has not. As far as I know, it has not.
Okay.
I have another question. Does the league have any concerns or a stance on the timing of the council mayor elections in our current cycle? This fall will be the odd districts, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, and the mayor, and then even, odd. Does the league have any comment, concern, questions about that, or?
No concern that has been noted or addressed in our discussion with respect to the locals, no. No concern with respect to that.
Thank you.
No.
Do you all have any questions for our committee or comments about what we're doing and how we're trying to
because I am new, I would like for you all to provide like an overview of what your role and responsibilities are, and maybe how frequently you meet. And, you know, I'm assuming that you bring in different diverse speakers to kind of address certain issues.
Yes, we've had, in fact, you mentioned Hannes Zacharias in here as one of your resources, and Hannes was the first conferee that we had back in either January or early February. Could I go back to the issue of city-county cooperation for a moment? And just taking it a piece at a time, or as an example, cooperation, collaboration with, for fire departments. I lived for a while in unincorporated Shawnee County and in Soldier Township, and they're very proud of the township fire department they have, and a lot of money gets spent on it, and there's ownership there. How do you facilitate? How do you work towards a greater cooperation between the city fire department and the Soldier Township Fire Department? How does that work?
So I'm not sure that I know that I have the answer to the specifics of how that would work.
Hey, it's in your paper.
I know. But I think that the importance of this kind of menu of areas of collaboration that the league suggests is that they need to start the conversation. They just need to start and have the conversation between the city and the county about what are the areas of collaboration that would be conducive to good, transparent, and effective governance. In addition to, are there cost savings involved to everybody who lives in Shawnee County through that cooperation? And fire trucks are extremely expensive.
Chairman, did you want to answer their question as to why this committee exists? Chairman, Jim? Jim, did you want to answer their question as to why the committee exists and why we're here?
I'm sorry, say it again, Connie. I was missing something.
Dr. Overstreet asked, what is this committee about? Why do we exist? What's our purpose? Did you want to answer her question?
Well, it's kind of sorry about that.
That's okay.
It's the big picture is, it is a fairly, at the same time, it's a very broad issue and also a very narrow one, okay? Is that helpful?
No, it's kind of ambiguous.
The mission is to take a look at the charter form of government that the city has, the city manager, mayor, council form of government, and essentially take the community's temperature, see if there are tweaks that need to be made or fundamental changes that need to be made to the form of government. In the previous lifetime of this committee in 2014, they wrestled with the question of whether or not to abandon the city manager form of government, go back to a strong mayor council form, or even the commission form of government, which preceded that. 10 years before that, I think 10 or 20 years before that, the committee played a role in getting on the ballot the question of whether or not to change to the city manager form of government, to get away from the mayor council form that we had. So, we're at a point where, and I mentioned earlier that to the councilman, that what we've heard to date has been pretty consistently positive about the role or the structure that we have now of the city manager form. And you all have said that, the league says that in its position statements. So I don't think it's likely that we're going to have any abrupt change in thinking here, although we're still waiting to hear from the public, but I doubt that there's going to be a groundswell of demanding that a change be made to the fundamental form of government that we have. So it's a matter of what can we do to improve it whether it's the term limits, whether it's the timing of elections, things of that nature. The other topics we've been talking about, city-county cooperation, that can enter into the charter as well. There could be structural changes or influences to the existing form of government that would put more emphasis upon city-county cooperation. As far as mentioned, like the ICC is something, could it have an enhanced role, or does another body need to be created that can be made part of the charter? And we talk about the charter form of government, I should take a step back. You know this, Vicki, that you both may know this very well, that the charter form means the form of government that was created by charter ordinance, the deviation from what the state statutes provide for. So Topeka's form of government it's a city manager form, which many cities have in this state, but there are unique features to the form of government that we have because it was created by charter ordinance.
So basically, this group, is it a random thing that was created like every so many years to kind of come in and look at the efficiency of how things are being done as an evaluation to consider proceeding with the current structure, or to look at maybe reevaluating that structure? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
and part of the charter ordinance
Okay.
itself provides for a 10-year
Okay.
review
Okay.
by a Citizens
Gotcha.
Government Review
Okay.
Committee. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, you were, not this committee, but the council was a little delayed in terms of, because we're 11 years doing this, right?
Well,
They started in 2024.
yeah, well, we had a blizzard in early January that cost us pretty much a month of time.
Yeah.
But we're on a 6-month timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's quite a charge, so thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate you being
Absolutely.
here.
We're more than happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, I'm not gonna let you go here right yet, because I got one more question.
Oh, okay.
One more question.
It got quiet in here, so I made an assumption.
And you heard me ask this of the councilman. I've been asking this of everybody. I am interested in any thoughts you have about where the city stands with a pending budget deficit and loss of federal funding simultaneously. And again, no indication whatsoever that the state can or will fill any gaps in social services with housing programs. In fact, the state is talking about getting rid of the investment tax credit, the low-income housing tax credit. These are all startling things to me. I'm glad I'm not an elected official, which I cannot be, by the way. But does the league have any? Do you all have any thoughts about that, or any comments regarding whether or not the city needs to make any fundamental changes in anticipation of the need for more programs and services provided by the city because the feds won't do it and the state won't do it?
I guess my thoughts are not necessarily, they're more personal than,
And I was
because
just going to go there
Yeah,
too.
that's fine.
I was going to go there too.
as a retired social worker in this community, it's just devastating to me to think about what's going to happen or could happen. Because, I've heard rumors that the social service block grant has been eliminated and no payments have been made, and that's not been confirmed. But I think it speaks to the issue of city, county, and even state cooperation and collaboration about how to pool resources to meet minimal needs in the community.
And I would attest to that as well, from a personal standpoint. We're losing funding just across the nation, and it adversely impacts communities that are already adversely impacted. And that's even more concerning. But from the city perspective, I'll say from my personal perspective, to see funds that are being spent to support legal defenses really greatly concern me, because we currently have an attorney, we have an assistant attorney, and we pay some pretty well-paid salaries. And we're looking at going out to external firms to pay even more. That's money that's being taken away from people who could use those resources. I just need to just say that is concerning to me. And so at a time particularly when we're losing funding in so many areas, we're losing it in the area of food, healthcare, so many different crucial areas. And so it becomes very vitally important for us to, not only look at, what is strategic planning when you don't look at the resources that can be taken away at any particular time. That means that ultimately you're going to have to look internally at the staffing. That's where most of the time people are going to start cutting. And so, it becomes important for us to look there to see what is necessary. Do our staff, do they have the necessary skill set to be able to take on those high-level commitments that they need without actually reaching out to external law firms to be able to get the level of expertise that's needed to defend our law enforcement officers? We need to look at that. We cannot pay in two different areas. It's not fair to our citizens. And those are some of the things from a personal standpoint that I feel we have to be diligent about where our funds are going, and look at how it adversely impacts the citizens that are paying the taxes, and ensure that it's being well served. They're being well served, especially in areas like this, in times like this. Those are my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate you for all your work that you're doing.
We appreciate this.
This is,
That's good
yes,
stuff.
very, yeah.
Good stuff.
Excellent.
That's a couple. Vicki?
Marty, I'm going to step out for a minute.
Thank you very much. So,
Be right back.
I've been watching your work, so I'm going to go back to that.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
As far as public comment, we have an email from Tom Banaka.
We also have an email as well from Danielle Twemlow that I sent out as well. So you should be able to see that on your email once you get back to.
And no other members of the public being present. So let's talk about, can we move into our committee discussion about where we are on issues? I think from our work session, I guess I should say, my recollection from the last meeting at the suggestion of Brian was that we have our respective preliminary drafts ready for the April meeting,
Yep.
okay, the next meeting.
The
in April.
23rd, I think, is when we're going to.
I have a format of sorts, and I'll share that. I guess I'll give it to Megan, and she can communicate it out. Just an idea, just
Yeah,
a
that was
suggestion.
going to be one of my questions. How do I need to present this? How should I be
Yeah.
presenting what I'm bringing?
Well, and again, it's just a rough
Okay.
thought.
Okay.
Rough idea was just to have a heading for the issue, and with a little bit of background,
Okay.
an explanatory statement of some sort.
Okay.
There's make reference to any conferees that have addressed that issue.
Okay.
And that would be just a matter of identifying that by name, who the conferee was and the date that they made their statements. Because then
Okay.
people could reference the minutes, which will be part of the report, an appendix to the report is my
Okay.
thought. And then same thing for public comments. If there are any public comments made on the same topic, you reference by name and the date that was done, and then recommendations. So it's a very brief,
Okay.
I think unlike maybe what was done in 2014, it's just a very brief, very concise statement of what the issues are, and followed by the recommendations, if any. So, like I said, I'll communicate something out.
Okay, yeah,
I have
that'd be
something here,
great.
but I don't think
That would be great.
And then Tammy, if you would like as well, you could send them to us.
I
and
do
then
have an
we'll-
odds
We
and
can
ends
put 'em
here, and
together.
I
Okay.
guess what I'm wondering is, we talked about, when we went through the list of issues at the last time, one of the first ones we talked about was an annual survey. And people said, not really, it's a good idea, but it's kind of outside the scope of what we're doing. But in doing some internet searching a while back, I ran across the Olathe, the city of Olathe's performance management page. And they had a satisfaction survey. They do it either quarterly or annually, I don't remember know which. But it was just a slideshow. It was really good. And so I'm not asking anybody to rethink their position,
Okay.
but I just thought it'd be interesting. You might be interested to take a look at it. It's the one with the asterisk next to it,
Okay.
for what that's worth. The other thing I wanted to provide you all with, and hold on just a second here before, I need to give a little context. I came into this thing without really any kind of an agenda other than housing, but you guys shot that down repeatedly, okay? So I'm not resurrecting that. But I had a conversation with a friend of mine, a longtime friend of mine, who I knew had made frequent appearances for the city council on different issues. So he's articulate and opinionated, and he's somebody that I worked with before I got into local government. We both worked at the Legislative Division of Post Audit, which is the state government's counterpart to the General Accounting Office, do both financial and performance auditing. And I was there for a short while. He was there for 4 decades. And in talking about different issues that have come up before this committee and different issues that I knew he was interested in, it kind of like the light bulb went off in my head. And I said, why doesn't the city of Topeka have an auditor? And started looking around, and cities in Kansas, quite a few actually have auditors.
Really?
Yes, and here's a packet to prove that.
Okay.
Off the website. And I want to ask you guys to take a look at this when you have a chance. Take a look at the material. When you have a chance, you just think about it, maybe for purposes of the next meeting, as to whether or not it's possible that we would want to entertain speakers on the merits, the pros and cons of having an internal city auditor that would do both performance and financial audits, appointed by the city council, and providing services to the city manager, the mayor, city council. And while I'm mentioning this, I would say that our first conferee, Hannah Zacharias, when he was county manager in Johnson County, he created the position of county auditor, and that's one of the pages in this set of material I have here.
Okay.
But I've got I've got the city of Olathe, Wichita, I think Overland Park,
Which one's that one?
Lawrence, and interestingly,
Which one's the Overland Park one?
City of Dallas. So Dr. Perez is
Came
used
from
to
a
having an
city that
auditor
has
that is
an
appointed
auditor.
by the Dallas City Council. Out there, it's not an appointee by the city manager, it's not part of the city manager's staff. It's, to at least to some extent, has independence. And being a
Versus-
former performance auditor,
Versus what we currently have in just a human resources department or a finance department with the city? And there's nobody except the city manager that's overlooking the finance department? Is that the way I'm to understand?
well, where I see, yes, but where I'm seeing the greatest area of interest for me, and as you look through these materials,
Okay.
look at how the auditors study different issues of function as a city government, the efficiencies and economies where they can make improvements.
Okay.
It's not just a matter of checking the dollars.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's any kind of an issue there at
Yeah,
all.
yeah,
And maybe, from time to time, maybe the city council would want an independent audit of a particular program or something.
Sure, sure.
But
Jim, while I want to have a good discussion, I believe that the city has an annual audit.
Right.
So you're asking for more than just an audit, you're asking for a recommendation on a full staff
Right,
member.
every city here, every city in the state of Kansas, every incorporated city has to have an annual audit. So that's done. That's strictly a financial audit. It's not a performance audit. This, an auditor could spend all of their time doing performance audits, or they could spend all their time doing financial audits. But I would think it'd be a mix like these folks have here. Olathe has a finance director. Okay, and they have an outside auditing firm doing an annual audit, per statute, but they have a performance audit as well, or they have that function within the city government. So the city council can say, we want to take a look at this program and see if it's operating at its optimal point. Are we getting the money's worth? Is there some efficiencies that can be made? Does it need more staffing, less staffing? More resources, fewer resources, whatever that is. It's information speaks for itself, I think. If you could take the time, and if there's interest in it, then great. If there's not, then there's not. But I personally, and I'm coming at this from my own experience of being, again, a performance auditor, and I wasn't there very long, but I know that the Legislative Division of Post Audit has saved the state taxpayers millions and millions and millions of dollars over time, by examining programs, by shutting some programs down or recommending shutting them down, and by streamlining others and by creating efficiencies.
Okay.
Good question. Do you envision this as a position funded for, administered by both the city and the county at the same time, or just the city, just the city?
That's good. I'm just looking at it as a city.
City
at
only?
this point, yeah.
Okay.
It'd be a position created by the city council, the auditor is appointed by the city council, and provides services to the manager, the mayor, and the council.
Okay, all right. When we look at our task, our recommendations, do we act as if for 10 years in the future or somewhere in between? Because financially, what the committee suggests and where the dollars are may not be there. Or do we just say, this is what we suggest, and if you have the money and you want to spend it this way, fine. If not, that's fine too. Do we ignore financial realities right now in our recommendations? I guess that's the question.
Yeah, and I'm kind of going out here, Connie, but I would think that if we asked an auditor to come in, one of these folks, from Lawrence or Overland Park or Kansas City, to come in and say, and ask that question, so the finances, the cost of having a city auditor, my hunch, my strong suspicion would be they'd say for every dollar you spend in the city auditor's office, you get $5 or $10 or $20
Back
return.
in savings. You got to spend money to save money kind of thing? Okay.
And maybe, I don't know if anybody in the room can answer the question, but kind of to staff, do we know the city's current process to do any kind of performance management, performance audits, anything like that? I mean,
I am not familiar with a performance audit. I know there are financial audits that we do.
Right.
I can certainly look into that and see if there's anybody who can perhaps speak or provide a memo regarding what a performance audit would look like, or if the city does it or has ever done one.
Right.
That sort of
didn't
thing.
know if maybe each department had some responsibility to put together performance reviews for their departments or anything like
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure they do.
Yes, yes.
I'm sure they have that kind of stuff going on. So would that overlap at all into this city auditor position? Or,
So that's
That's
what I
a
what I
good
fear.
question.
What I
Yes.
fear is if we were to recommend, hey, the city needs to create a position of a performance auditor, what are we then telling each department head to do? Are we creating an inefficiency, which is the opposite of our goal here, by hiring somebody to do what is already being done? So not to say I have the answer, but maybe if we could get even a memo from the city manager's office and maybe even the mayor's office on their thoughts on a potential performance auditor, they may come back and say, instead of hiring a performance auditor, we have tasked each of our department heads to put together
this
department
every year
audits,
annually,
right.
yeah.
Because that may be being done, we just don't have the answer, so, and we have not asked the question
Maybe there's
before
just
today.
not one big complete report that gets submitted to council
Or one person. It's
Yeah.
being done
by
across the board.
department. Yeah,
I hate
it could
to,
be.
um,
We don't know.
take up more of his time, but Councilman Miller, to your knowledge, has anything ever been reported to council about performance audits within the city? Welcome back.
And before the councilman speaks, we talk about performance auditing, because I've been talking about that, but it's the position is auditor, and it has dual function of performance audits and financial audits, whatever the city council or the city manager would direct to be studied, whether it's
Sure.
the financial operation of a department or its performance.
Okay.
I believe I'm hearing the difference in what you're asking for, and you're looking for more of a performative audit. The problem with having a performative audit is that how we perform is directly tied to the finances that we have to handle. So if our numbers are right, and then you're talking about maybe a policy change, or is this efficient, or do we need to do things this way? That's a city manager conversation. And I will say, I have been informed from the city manager, and the rest of the governing body has, of the different processes that they've come to realize since he came in, of what example is the 13% that he had across the board, had every single department. Hey, if we're going to meet this number, if everybody took a 13% cut, what would it look like? So every single one of those directors went through their department and made sure what the efficiencies were to say, if we went down 13%, here's what would be affected. Here's the things that we're doing right now and how we would have to adjust if we needed to do so. I understand the concept of having someone who comes in and says, oh, well, you should be more efficient this way. But they are not the ones who have been doing it for the last 10, 15 years, like a lot of our staff members who know the community, know our needs, and know how, if some big adjustment was made and then I didn't know that was a problem, well, you can have this back. When you're already starting a ball of problems, it's hard to bring all that back.
Well, Councilman, this, what I'm envisioning is it's not like what's going on in the federal government, where you have Elon Musk's, 18-year-olds running in and telling people how to do their job after they've been doing it for 40 years. That's not what I'm talking about. But my suggestion would be, unless there's zero interest in this, is that we ask the city manager to come in. He has functioned in a city that has had a city auditor. In fact, if you look at the Dallas city auditor website, you'll see, I think there's 18 positions that they have. So it's a full-fledged operation down there, and he's functioned there. And in Dallas, the city auditor is not subject to, not appointed by the city manager, it's appointed by the city council. So he's familiar. Dr. Perez is familiar with it, and his observations would be valuable, I would think. Another person, again, would be Hannah Zacharias. Or we could ask the city auditor of Lawrence to come in, or, any number of folks that could talk about it and either kill the idea or, people say, yeah. One other, and I'm giving you all my sales pitch here, and I apologize for that, but I do come at this from a particular perspective. But one other thing we haven't talked about or haven't mentioned is the value that an auditor, as at least a semi-independent, quasi-independent body or person, the assurance that can provide to the public that certain things are functioning well. That it's not just the insiders at City Hall saying everything's fine, everything's good. It's you have an auditor here that has some degree of independence and has looked at programs and services and says this is working well, or this needs to be changed, and whatever. And they don't have final say. I use my example, the legislative post-audit, the state of Kansas, make recommendations. Recommendations go to the legislative post-audit committee and then to the full legislature. All we can do is make recommendations. And I don't hit you with this cold, Councilman.
No, you're trying. I didn't know if there was a question specifically on that. Was there a question?
No, glad to hear.
Make sure,
I want you to endorse the idea. That's a question. Do you think it's a good idea? No. I'm not asking you that question. Okay.
Thanks, Marcus. I think that, and I don't want to shoot this down. I actually think that this is something that probably is in our purview as a committee, so I don't want to shoot this down as a conversation. I'm also thinking of it as, right, we're sitting on this board because we are bringing the citizens' lens into our government. And like Councilman Miller said, I also sometimes end up reading the Facebook comments on things, which is never a great idea, but it's entertaining. I don't know about fun. And you want to pay attention to what people are talking about. People have a strong belief that there's a lot of inefficiencies in the city government. But then we've also talked about the city goes through a financial audit every year. We've got a city manager that knows about efficiencies and has worked with auditing departments. I just don't know if this is something that I personally would want to recommend to a city when I now understand a better in depth how the city works with both financial and performance audits. I would wait to hear from the city manager and or mayor to hear about maybe their perspectives on how we're controlling performance management before I would really be comfortable spending any time talking about something I may not know entirely enough about.
Yeah, and then if we do go and make this recommendation, what if it's just like the housing survey and it just gets, well, okay, yeah, maybe that's what we need to do, but there's no follow through. Maybe.
Well, that's the risk we
Right.
have with any recommendation we make. You remember that Jim Reardon, when he was here, they had 6 or 8 recommendations, and maybe 1 or 2 got adopted. So it's raising the flag and seeing what response. And I would mention, Zach, each one of these cities here have long-standing, decades and decades of experience with city manager form of government. Mm-hmm. And Olathe has been blessed with really good city managers since the beginning of time. Wichita has as well. They function. The city manager functions. Those governments function well with having an internal auditor answerable to the council.
Yeah. I don't want to sit here and tell you I'm for or against the idea. I think that
Well, you're leaning
it's-
in a particular direction.
I do lean, but I lean based on the current information I have in front of me.
Yeah.
I would love to learn more. So if there's any way that maybe by the next meeting we could have some kind of memo or anything there.
I'll say, I can certainly get a hold of Dr. Perez and see if he can either provide a memo or potentially even come in person at the next meeting, if that would be okay.
Yes.
Yes,
I think we all
absolutely.
are open
Yes.
to that possibility, but I don't know what I don't know right
Yeah.
now.
You're
And
not
I-
just going to take my word for it.
That's not our job.
I don't know what I don't know. So if maybe it's already done in increments across all the departments of the city,
And we don't know
and we
about
need to,
it.
you know, it maybe we need to consolidate, or maybe not. I don't know. But I agree with Zach. Let's get
Yeah.
more info,
Sure.
please.
Well, Dr. Perez has been here long enough to have a feel for how his departments function. He has come from years and years in Dallas, which operated with an auditor. A big office, a large office.
Yeah, these are a lot of large cities. Are these cities in comparison? Like, I guess Lawrence isn't.
Wichita.
Wichita's a big city. Olathe is a big city.
This is, okay, so the.
Dallas is huge.
Yeah,
We are the largest city in Kansas that doesn't have an auditor.
okay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
So the report sandwiched between Wichita and Lawrence, that's Olathe or Overland Park, or
I mentioned Overland Park. I don't think I added it at the packet, but I would urge you, I mean,
Okay.
this was
Common
about
knowledge, you
30
can
minutes
find it.
on the
So
internet.
who's-
Yeah, find
this?
it on their websites.
this here, the audit reports, what city is this tied to?
It says Johnson County on it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
what
it's
it-
got a
Yeah.
little sunflower up there. I bet it is Johnson County.
Is it
sure
the
that can
county? Okay, I missed that.
You got it?
When I
Okay.
stepped out.
But take a look at it and do
Yep.
your own research on
Yes.
it, okay?
Well,
I would just
absolutely,
Okay,
1,000%.
we will.
cruise through some, I limited
I
it to
appreciate
cities in
that.
Kansas and to Dallas because of Dr. Perez.
Okay,
But, I didn't, but I know Kansas City, Kansas has an auditor. I didn't include that in there. You
Okay.
can go there. Kansas City, Missouri has a very large audit shop. You can go there. You can go to Denver. You can go, I don't think Salina has an auditor. That's probably the largest city in Kansas that does not have
okay,
an internal auditor.
okay.
And it's not make or break.
No,
okay?
no.
But-
This is what we're asking for.
But, just one more observation about it. Try to tie threads together, issues together. The issue of whether or not reports and studies actually get implemented or there's follow-up.
Yes.
That is something you'll see as an assignment of the auditors, as a
Oh,
performance
okay.
auditor. Say, okay, we did a report in 2023.
Where are we at with
on
this now?
topic
Yeah.
X. Has it been implemented? If not, why not? Or what's
Mm-hmm.
going on? It's the report to the policymakers is about how, different studies, different reports are followed through on.
Okay,
But I'd appreciate you guys taking a look at it, doing
Sure,
your own.
we will.
Take a look at it, and we can talk about it some more at the next meeting or
okay.
other meetings. And I will, could we ask Dr. Perez, that's a night meeting coming up. Would you like him to see if he's available as early as that meeting?
I think as long as we've got information, whether it's a
Yeah.
memo or whatever.
Yeah.
I think just leave it up to him. Maybe he has more to say and would like to show up in person, leave that up to him, but.
Whether or not it's in person.
Right.
Yeah.
Correct.
That should be in his,
Do you want to ask Hannes to come back? I mean, he made the offer to come back on any topic we want to talk about.
I think we should probably wait and hear what the city manager says
That's fine.
first. And if he's open to having that discussion and we want to investigate further, then yeah, maybe we have Hannes come back and give us a little more detail about how he feels about this position.
Did you want to talk to somebody from finance regarding financial audits? Or is this something, again, you want to wait until?
I mean, I'm pretty comfortable with where we are with financial audits,
Yeah.
so.
If
Agreed.
that's what you all want to do. Again, I have absolutely no reason to believe that there's any problem with any of the financial reporting that's going on with the city of
Sure,
Topeka.
sure.
Now or ever, okay? I just,
Yeah.
I know some of the people involved in that, with those functions that have, great confidence and trust in them. That's not the issue.
Yeah.
But again, you look through the material here, you might see that there are times when the city council might want to do some kind of a limited financial audit of a particular expenditure.
Okay.
Are you getting the best deal possible in buying a city dump truck? It could be something as specific as that. Just somebody that's kind of taking things apart and taking a look at it and seeing if there are ways to do things better. Oh, I didn't know what else we were going to do with the last 45 minutes of our time. What issues did you hear today that you want to explore further?
I know that part of mine, I've already started doing research on the elections and form of government, things like that, and using what we've learned. I think that, again, a huge shout out to the League of Women Voters for their presentation, because it also gave me more to look at as far as the redistricting process. Was unaware of. In my research, thought that we had a fairly independent commission. Now I learned that maybe it's not as independent as it could be, or as efficient as it could be. So I'm going to do some more research into that. So I've got a whole list of things here that I know that my report will cover, whether we want to make recommendations on it or not, but at least mention that we spoke about it. So right now, my biggest things are redistricting, possibilities of term limits if those are ever needed. But the other things we talked about, the term lengths, districts versus at-large, number of council persons, election cycles, and all the research that I did have come up with pretty much Topeka kind of hit the standard, and a lot of cities are moving to what we're already doing because they're finding that this is a pretty efficient way to go about it. So
I have a
Well,
question.
back up, let's talk about about a redistricting commission or committee, whatever. Do you want to take folks' temperature about whether or not that is something that's likely to be a recommendation or could be a recommendation?
yeah. I mean, I wrote down things like removing the part about regard for addresses of incumbents. I'm going to do some more research into that. And then the other thing was how
you choose the person.
Right, how each person was appointed. Talked about, and it's in the report a little bit here, but between the mayor, council, city manager, and municipal judge, how each person was appointed, how the chairperson was appointed, things like that, how large that group is.
So I have some questions. Zach, on the redistricting committee, is it chosen in a similar manner as this committee was?
So from what we learned today and from what I saw in my research just going online about how it was done last time, each city council district as it existed, 5 years ago, had a person appointed that it cannot be a city council person that sits on that commission,
Okay.
but that person is appointed by their city council
Okay.
person.
Yeah.
So I'm in District 5,
we actually have
so my
a-
5
so-
It's foolproof.
So District 9, actually, Michelle Hofer,
Yes.
before she was on city council, was on the redistricting commission. So she couldn't sit on it the next time if she were to run and sit on that seat.
Gotcha.
But she is familiar with that process, but at the time, she was selected by the current city council person, or at the time. And as far as I know, that's the extent of it. Each council person gets to select or nominate from a group of pool of candidates, I guess, who they'd like to put forth.
And then
I feel
council
like I
approves
understood that
them?
pretty correctly. Is that for the most part correct in the evaluation? Okay.
And then council approves these people, like they bring them up in a council meeting and say, yeah,
Most
like,
likely
because
as
that's
a
how we
slate,
work.
here's who each district is going to represent. And
Yeah.
We give it your best shot.
Okay, and my another question is, right now our mayor and council are elected nonpartisan.
Mhm.
Do you want to take the temperature of flipping that to a partisan election or not?
I can mention it in the report. I'm more than happy to mention that in the report. And
I mean, it's up to us to decide
in all
that.
the research that I have done, I have seen people go back and forth, but I most often see cities keep it nonpartisan. We could also mention in the report, right? I also see a lot of people in conversations that I've had that don't like that other positions are partisan, non-city positions, but county positions and things like that. But we don't have any control over that, so. But yeah, they're as nonpartisan as they probably could be.
But it
But
goes
I'm
back,
more than
that goes
happy-
with districting or redistricting,
Sure,
how partisan these elections are. 'Cause
Sure.
you drew your district a certain way,
right.
then it could be.
And I'm not familiar enough with, and this might be something that I go to Councilwoman Hofer about, seeing as she was on it this last couple of years, is in what regard do they take registered political parties when they're redistricting city council maps, since it's nonpartisan races, if they even consider it at all, and include that in a report. Although I will say that just as a matter of personal preference, I would love to see the city council elections stay nonpartisan. And I
If
feel
it
like
ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing.
right. And I think I've seen a lot of people just say, local elections just aren't that partisan anyways, or shouldn't get partisan. No reason why a municipal government should be running on federal and state issues that we can't do anything about.
So that's a good point. So the two issues, term limits and the one I brought up, the partisan or nonpartisan elections, I think they both are equally like pros and cons, yeses and nos kind of thing. And it might just stay the way it is.
Yeah. But I can definitely put it in there as a
Okay.
as a talking point, as a
If
we've
we don't want
discussed
to talk
this.
about it,
and-
we don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But,
Well, and I imagine we'll talk about it again when we go to our work session, so.
because
I'll write that down.
that's part of the election lens.
Absolutely.
Zach, did you have anything else on your list from the?
Nope,
from today?
that's all I've got. My list kept getting bigger as I researched, so.
Okay, and I'm doing a write-up on interlocal cooperation, and a lot of material from the league supportive of that, so.
Oh, I have a question. I should
We'll
have asked the
incorporate,
league, but I did not. Well, I didn't do it while they were here. They mentioned the ICC being created. No, where's my notes? Yeah, with a half-cent sales tax, or with the half.
Well, I think
I need to learn
that
that.
was the origins of the ICC. That's how it came to fruition, was
Okay.
to provide information.
In the original half-cent sales tax, was
Yeah,
that
Vicki, do you want to?
was that the one was passed for infrastructure, streets, sidewalks?
Yes.
And so, so the sales tax was countywide, and so the ICC is countywide for disbursement of the funds? I need to understand.
They're not a policymaking.
They're not a policy
at
recommendation?
all.
Okay. Okay. All right, I'll read some more, because I'm really confused. Why does it exist then?
Thank you.
That would be.
A great question.
A lot of people, because, just personally, I feel like they digress from their original,
Okay.
but it.
That's what, I can hear you just fine, but that's fine.
But the original purpose
Uh-huh.
was to share information with all the taxing entities represent in Shawnee County.
So it'd be the city,
The
the state,
library,
the county.
the,
Library,
uh,
Washburn,
the,
MTA,
airport
the
authority.
MTA. Okay,
Yes.
that whole list, okay.
And to discuss basically what you're thinking in terms of raising mill levy or lowering mill levy, or so that everybody knew what everybody else was doing. So,
To become more collaborative.
yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
That's
Yeah.
why it was incepted or brought
Yeah.
on, but over time, it has dropped off of that. So they really don't get together and they don't
Well, they do
make
get
it-
together, and if you want a free breakfast, and
but then they don't follow up and make a recommendation to anybody else or come up with a report.
well, attendance isn't comprehensive, note-taking is not comprehensive.
So-
There are no
It's just
publicly
informational
available
only.
records.
So if I'm one of these taxing entities, would I not get that information to begin with, what the other guys are doing? Or would that not play a decision? Because if I'm, I live in 501, MTA, MTAA, the library, Washburn, the city, the county, the state. I mean, we've got 8 entities taxing us, right? And they're kind of competing for
The funds.
the funds and the residences. I mean, if we tax people out of the school districts or out of the city, I need to consider that, wouldn't I? Or, get a pulse for the fluctuation of the taxing rate or mills. Anyway, so okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure there's a question there.
I'm just trying to understand. Thank you very much. I appreciate your help.
We're coming to the end of the meeting. Sir, we had an agenda item for public comment, and no one was here at the time.
I would take a minute.
Well, we've got 4, so we've only
Come on
got
down.
a minute.
Come on down for 4 minutes.
If you just introduce yourself and have at it.
Hi, my name's Henry McClure. You all ought to look into the Citizens Commission that was supposed to be implemented 5 years ago. The statute, just off the top of my head, is 192670. They recently just passed Senate Bill 104 to block implementing the plan. We've been trying for a couple of years to get the Citizens Commission up and going. Some of my friends and constituents in Shawnee County. And it has been, so for 5 years they didn't put the commission together. We've been trying to get the county commissioners to do it. Then the minute we really are getting a lot of people interested in it, they block it by saying, well, now it's optional. And so if you can't get them to do it by law, to comply with the law, what do we think we can get it done if it's optional? But she brings up really a neat point about all the taxing authorities, because everybody that she mentioned would have a seat at the table, plus a certain amount of citizens. So you take the city council, the county commission, the drainage districts, MTAA, across the board, the school board. If you look at the Citizens Commission, it originally was put together to understand if Wyandotte should be consolidated, but it doesn't have to be a consolidation committee. It can also just be a way to network. So what's really cool about it, I mean, think about it this way, is every government entity owns a computer, but it's not connected to the internet. So this brings the connectivity of everybody getting together, plus citizens that are interested in it. It's your group, but on steroids. And that's really, I'm running for the mayor of Topeka, and that's going to be one of my main things to do, is to get that Citizens Commission implemented, besides getting the planning commissions back together, as well as some other things. But I thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all. And I appreciate the work you're trying to do. Thanks.
And just for clarity, the action you're talking about is for the county Citizens Review Commission. That was the subject matter of the bill that was passed, and I think it just was signed yesterday by the governor.
To make it optional.
Yeah, to remove
But
the mandate.
it's been state law
Yeah.
for years, and we haven't been able to implement it because The
But-
county commission has a mind of its own, and they're going to do whatever they want, whenever they want, whether it's law or not.
But any city and any county can create a citizens committee by home rule.
But it's based on population that made it state law.
Right, right.
And we qualify.
Yeah, and it's off the table now. That statute's off the table in terms of a mandate.
Well, no, it makes it optional.
Yeah, right.
So, all right, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mr.
so much.
McClure.
I would.
I was going to say time is up.
I was going to
so
say
we
I
do-
would move to adjourn, but time is up, so
I'm,
Okay.
we don't really have
I
an
second
option.
it.
But yeah,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
Thank you.